Now it's finally autumn, I think it's about time for some spooky crafts. So here's my sketch for this week's sculpture. The general theme, if I had to put it simply, is too many hands. Brandon here has got a great story and I'm so excited to tell you about him. So let's get into it. I'm starting out with aluminium wire, also known as armature wire for, you guessed it, the armature. I'm starting with the legs, snipping the length for the spine, then curling the leftover wire around on itself to secure the arms. The joints are reinforced with tape, and once the foil has been added in the general shape of a body, I reposition a wee bit. Then add the clay. As you can see, I changed my mind about the position. I've landed on a little wave for this character. I think it just fits him. To start the trousers, I added a line of flattened clay around the waist and blend in one side. This gives the impression of separation, and then I do the same thing around the ankles for the trouser cuffs. Next, they need a little dimension, so I start with the lines of clay to make wrinkles. These are blended out with a ball stylus and then softened with a silicone tool. For the belt, I start with similar flattened lines of clay placed in a rectangle shape. The buckle details are added very carefully, coaxed into place with precision and a whole lot of hoping for the best. I press in the belt all the way around the body with a sharp tool, then push down either side so that it looks like it's on top of the trousers and not in them. The belt loops are, again, prayed into place, and then I move down to make even more wrinkles. I'm imagining this kid would be the kind that would be so generally unkempt that you think it must be intentional, but it isn't. Like he's always managed to skip a button when putting his uniform back on after gym. He's that kind of kid. After I've added the shirt collar and lined where the shirt meets, I add tiny buttons down the front. I add a lump of clay for the knot of his tie, and then you can start to see the messy vision. I want everything to be generally askew. For his jacket, I cut down the flattened layer of clay, and then again, blend in one side into the existing clay. I repeat this to add the lapels, and make sure to add the line for the soon-to-be red trim. I add a little star on his jacket too. This will make more sense when we get to the painting, and I'll tell you all about him and his story. As previously stated, there will be many hands on this sculpture. I really don't know why I do this to myself. Starting with the feet hands, I add a blob of clay onto the wire and then add lines for the fingers. Another line is added for the knuckles, and more blobs down the thumb. Lines are blended into the top of the hand foot for tendons, and then I press in the fingernails with a flat tool. Before I can add another hand though, which won't be the last in this video, I have to make what he's holding. For the handle of the sword, I run a line of thin wire down and across to form a cross shape. The blade is flattened clay cut to a point, which will be sanded down to try and get the point as thin as possible. I press the handle wire into the base of the blade to join them, and then I can start building up the hand around it. His backpack starts with a ball of foil. Once covered in clay, it's given a little more shape. I add a handle with a flat line of clay that I press into place. The front pocket is pressed into place too, and then I blend in what will be the top flap of the bag. To create said top flap, I use a flat tool to indent the clay. I then add the straps to the front and add lines across them as the fastenings. To decorate the bag, I add a few badges, including another star. For some more detail, I add a few pencils to the side pocket. To attach the backpack, I use liquid clay. This helps unbaked clay stick to already baked clay, and it cures in the oven just the same as normal clay. The straps are another flattened line of clay wrapped around the shoulders, and then, once the bag is attached to, I add the ends of the straps to the back. It's time for my favourite part, making the head. Once the foil is covered in clay, I mark out where the eye sockets will be. I bulk out the face and build up the forehead too. And then blend with the end of a sculpting tool just for ease. Balls of clay are added into the eye sockets for eyes, and then to make them look a little less scary, I add the lines for the eyelids. Earlier, after I put the first hand on, I started to get a Wallace and Gromit vibe, so I decided to go for a more stylised look. Unfortunately, that means he doesn't look much like the sketch anymore, but that doesn't really bother me. I blend in a triangle to make his nose, then define it more with a pointed tool. Like I said, I'm going for a more stylised look, so his mouth is just a line pressed into the clay. I considered also making his eyebrows fingers, but I was a little bit too attached to do that to him at this point. For his hair, I started with the thumbs. I don't think I've explained properly, but Brandon here, his curse is that he has hands instead of hair. And that's all I'm giving you right now. I'll explain more when we get to the painting. More lines of clay are added for more fingers, and then I move on to the details. Adding fingernails to the hair fingers was an experience. That's a sentence I've never said before. I finish off the last fingers along the back of the head with a flat tool for the fingernails, and then I add a whole line of knuckles. Okay, painting time. I think we can both agree that this step is pretty straightforward in the terms of telling you what I'm doing, so instead of boring you, I'm going to tell you about this character. I've been watching the new Dungeons & Dragons campaign on YouTube. Bear with me, this will be important, but don't worry, you don't need to have seen anything to do with D&D. The channel is RollFromTheHip if you're interested though. So, as a quick recap, we're following 4 kids who have been shipped off to a boarding school for cursed boys. One transforms into a werewolf every 10 business days, one only farts music. They're improv comics, you get the gist. It's fun. But the character I'm making is one of the background characters. One that they happen to be in class with, but isn't, at this point at least, integral to the story. Just jumping in here, I have now seen all the episodes, and when I tell you, I've never been so invested in a YouTube thing before. If you've never seen any D&D before, go give it a try. It's basically just storytelling with dice, it's so much fun. Clearly I've been missing out. If you have any recommendations to other campaigns, please tell me about them in the comments. I would be eternally grateful. Anyway, back to Brandon. The way the Dungeon Master describes him was so simple. They basically just put their hand over their hair and wiggled their fingers as they spoke. It was such a clear visual that I took to it immediately, and I just had to make him in 3D. Like it would be a disservice to him not to have some kind of physical form. Once I really started thinking about him though, the more questions I had. Would the fingers be hairy? I generally spent a lot of time deliberating on whether I should texture the hair hands like the eyebrows. Also, would he have to cut every single fingernail? Or would the fingers grow like real hair? And if so, would he have to trim his hair fingers? And how would that not be an awful bloody mess? If you've got any theories, please tell me in the comments below. And if you have seen the series, please let me know what you thought. The last episode was mad, and an Edgar with Poe, oh my god, Tom Mayo, don't make me cry, seriously. I'm not going to spoil it here, but if you are in any way interested, I would highly recommend checking it out. Also, I realised I never explained the stars. In episode 2, they were given golden stars if they made good character choices. And when I started making this sculpture, the other episodes weren't out yet, so I thought the stars were going to be more of a reoccurring thing. They weren't, but I still think they fit with Brandon's character anyway. Now, with that being said, we've made it to the end, so it's time for the results. Thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. I'd love to hear what you think, and if you have any suggestions for what I should make next, leave those down there too. Thanks again, and have a nice day.